Hello, my name is Diana Loderhose. I'm the International Features Editor here at Deadline. I'm in our Red Sea studio here in Jeddah with Adon Quinn, who is the CEO of Movie, which is Saudi Arabia's largest exhibitor, largest cinema chain.
Largest cinema chain, yes, that's correct.
That is kind of incredible. So 5 years, where do we know? 2000, 5 years ago, cinema was banned, and now you're operating the largest running one in the region. Walk me a little bit through that journey.
Yeah, so we were actually a year later than everyone else. So we opened our first location here in Jeddah in August 2019. And since that time, we've grown from one location and 15 screens. Today, we have 21 locations across 10 different cities and 205 screens.
So I wanted to know a little bit about plans for growth. What are, because the market is growing. I was interviewing someone else prior and talking about how now that the market has opened up in Saudi Arabia, when I'm looking at international box office charts, it's up there.
It is. One of the biggest things we've seen over the past few years is whilst the international has continued to grow, it's really the local content. And this is local stories both from Saudi and Egypt, and the strength of them in the box office. So at Movie, last year we opened up movie studios, so we're producing Arabic content out of both countries. And the next few years, our growth will be more on the content side and driving the local box office. I see the Saudi market being much more like South Korea, where local content is over 50% of the box office market share. Mm-hmm. And I think we will see that this year it's going to end up around 34%. And I think it will be somewhere between 50 to 60% of the total box office in the next 3 years.
Obviously, we know a lot of people know that Saudi has a very young population. With what are the statistics? 70% are under the age of 35 is the one I keep hearing.
Yes.
Is that right? That's the correct one. So, with that in mind, I'm presuming a lot of these are younger audiences. But what about demographic-wise?
Demographic-wise, we're seeing an even split. It's really down the line, 50-50 between male and female audiences. And obviously a lot is driven by the type of content on what age group we're getting. But one of the biggest challenges and the exciting thing for us at Movie is to be able to grow that culture of cinema going in a country where it hasn't been there for so long. So, when I think back to my first experiences going to the cinema in Australia, it was just magical. So we're trying to develop that. We're working a lot with the schools and trying to bring in programs to bring children to the cinema as part of field trips, especially for the Saudi films, and developing that across the ecosystem and, really bringing that magic of cinema for the first time.
Tell me a little bit about maybe types of stories that are working or have worked in the last 12 to 18 months.
So on the international side, the biggest hit of all time in Saudi has been Top Gun Maverick. It was amazing numbers. It was the first film to cross the million admission mark in the country. And since then, we've seen some great successes with one of Movie Studios' first co-productions, which was Sata with Al Shamaisi and Telfaz. So it has become the biggest Saudi film of all time and number 4 of all time by admissions.
Wow. That's incredible. You have a partnership also with Front Row Entertainment, is that right?
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I've known Gianluca and the team for many years, and it was a great partnership with the way they do business and the type of films that they're acquiring. We've seen great success and the success of these films with the Saudi market. It's really a discerning market in terms of film choice, which was something I wasn't expecting when I first came here. So this year we've seen great success with films such as Sound of Freedom and Talk to Me, which totally sort of surprised us with how great the results were. And we're doing a lot on the Egyptian side in terms of distributing the films that we produce under Movie Studios and for other studios as well.
Why do you think Egyptian cinema, it's got such a big history, but why do you, beyond it being regional, what do you think it is about Egyptian stories that are resonating with the Saudi market?
It's what they've grown up with. Right. So before cinemas, a lot of the TV shows and the movies that they were watching at home were coming from the Egyptian market, and especially here in Jeddah, there's a long history with the trade and everything happening where Egypt has been such a strong part of the culture when it comes to film for people, and it's really the comedy has really been the standout genre, and I think it's really what translates to the audience, and being able to see themselves in a lot of these films is what's been the success that we've seen today.
Tell me a little bit more, if you could, about your production or the content that you're developing and who with.
Yeah, so our first two films, we've had two films released already. So Sata and Itnin Lilajar, which was an Egyptian comedy, which we've produced with Al Arabia Cinema Productions, which is headed by Asad Yunus, who's one of the legends of Egyptian cinema. And then Telfaz, we've had Sata, and we will release in 2 weeks' time Mandub, which was premiered in Toronto earlier in the year, and there's screenings in the next few days of that, so we're really looking forward to that success. We'll have another Egyptian film in January, Ezabata Zima, which is also with Asad Yunus, and she's coming back on the screen as well. On Sunday, we start shooting for another Saudi film with Ayman Koja Productions, and that will be with Yasser Al-Sagaf, who's just come off Crashing Eid, which has been a great success on Netflix, and Bayoumi Fouad, an Egyptian star, coming into that film. So we hope that will be a summer release, and we have plans between this December to next December. We'll have 10 films coming out under movie studios, so 5 Saudi productions and 5 Egyptian. And the plan is 2025 to have that up to 24 films every year.
Wow. So that's your kind of growth kind of hopes for the next couple of years in terms of production. But on the exhibition side, where do you see the market kind of expanding? Like, what are kind of, maybe you could give us some numbers in terms of what your goal is as a cinema chain to kind of saturate the market?
So at the moment, there's 620 screens in the market, so we're 31% of the screen share, and we see that to continue. So next year we have 7 new locations and another 50 screens, so we'll have 25% growth in screens in 2024. Beyond that, we see for movie cinemas by 2030 to be around the 500 to 550 screen mark. The total market by 2030 will probably be somewhere around the 1,500, 1,600 screen mark. Not quite as high as the early projections, but I think with the growth of local content, it's going to be what will be the next phase of expansion coming into screens. And obviously there's a lot of secondary cities which still don't have cinemas today, and that will be part of the expansion, as well as everything happening in the major cities with the further development of them.
Yeah. Great. Well, thank you so much for being here today. It's lovely to learn a little bit more about how this exhibition sector is growing. Thank you
so much.